Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwiktub.
This is Merps. Hello. 'Twas the week before Christmas, and we're doing the same thing we always do. We're talking about Arena, Battlegrounds, maybe a little bit of duels. You'll have to keep on listening. Who
A
knows?
little bit
Who
of
knows?
duels. Not anything
Maybe.
substantive.
Nah, maybe. Keep them guessing.
Okay,
Keep them guessing.
okay. I want to give a huge shout out in the very beginning of the show to our Patreons. It's the end of the year. We really appreciate you guys. And the top Patreons for this month are Nordoge, Joe T, RB Night Train, Changyin, Yin, Eric L, Aaron LS, Dan F, Doug A, Feldylocks, Jordan W, Cordova, Math and Carnage, Torjado, Larissa H, 4P, and Brand New. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us and for supporting us throughout a very rough 2020 for everyone. We are hoping 2021 will be much better.
Indeed.
Yeah, if you're wondering how to support us on Patreon because you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this as a podcast and you don't, engage with our Twitch stuff, one, just check out Twitch. Twitch is fun. It's more chill. You just put it on in the background. But two, this is what Patreon's for. Patreon.com/grinninggoat. Again, any little bit helps. We'd really appreciate it. And shout out and thank you to everybody who's been on the Patreon train. Okay. Now getting on to the giant patch. Like, there was a giant patch that came out on Tuesday that upended Battlegrounds, had a whole crap ton of changes for duels, a little bit of changes for constructed, and nothing for arena. But then 2 days later, they hotfixed it, and they actually did the arena a class balance adjustment. So there is arena class balance adjustment. It is live. It's been here with us since Thursday, I want to say. I think like Thursday is when it came on. Maybe late Wednesday night. But the stats on HS Replay by now it's 48 hours lag, so it already reflects everything in the new meta. This may still reflect some stats from the old meta, decks, because you don't have to retire a deck when they do a class balance adjustment. But from the early results, it's pretty stark. Demon Hunter is down to 47.7%, and it's probably going to keep falling as the old decks go out. So its true win percentage is probably 47 or 46%, which makes it one of the worst classes by win rates for I guess above average players. Druid, which we're going to play today, didn't seem like it got any help at all. It's still down there at 47%, which is kind of where it was beforehand. Hunter is still at the very bottom at 47%. We said this before from the very beginning when this expansion came out and this rotation came out for Arena. We don't know what Hunter's doing. We don't know how they can balance Hunter. Hunter's just bad. And it seems like despite you doing the math on things and Blizzard pushing the button, they have not balanced Hunter, which doesn't super surprise us. And it may be a good thing, because if they try to balance Hunter too hard and Hunters are just like too terrible, then you're going to see all the broken Hunter cards like appear like 5 times in a draft, right? That would be the only way to even out the win rates, and that's not good. And speaking of that's not good, we're going to look at the top. As widely predicted, the number one class in the meta is Warrior, because they knocked down Demon Hunter, they knocked down Warlock, and they didn't touch Warrior, and Warrior was number 3. So, pretty easy math there. That Warrior is on top right now. It's 52.5%. From what I've seen of Warriors in the meta, I would say it should be higher than that. Just wait. It'll start ticking up and continue to tick up for a bit, and they're going to make another adjustment sometime probably in January that'll bring Warriors down a bit more. That's my prediction. Because Warriors were always kind of broken before. They weren't as broken as Demon Hunters. They weren't as broken as Warlock, but they were always a little bit broken. Like I have a consistent loss rate of 100% in this meta to Warriors when they start with Gnarg or N'Zoth's first mate. I got a 12-win run like a couple nights ago with a Warrior deck that was like decent, like definitely had 12-win potential, but it was really on the back of 3 N'Zoth's first mates. Like, just nobody had the board on me for the entire early and mid game. And as the Warrior, you can do a lot of things with it, right? You can convert a lot of weapon damage to face. You can push more. The meta is like a half step slower than it was before. And I mean that like literally, like literally just a half step slower. The fact that Demon Hunters are no longer in the meta, at least so far, hasn't slowed the meta down super hard, and it may not slow the meta down super hard, but it is a little bit slower, and that makes warriors even more powerful. Because the power of the warriors are very concentrated right now in the two 1-mana cards. And the fact that they're concentrated in two 1-mana cards that really need to be played on turn 1 or turn 2 to have its intended effect means that warriors are also very swingy to play. If you don't get them in the early going, you're kind of a normal class. But if you get them in the early going, you're just going to win the game. So if we're talking about unhealthy things to do, they didn't do anything to Warrior, but Warrior was always unhealthy. And it's still unhealthy, and it's number 1 right now. So I don't know what to... they need to do something weird, like reduce the offering rates of like cards that are 1-drops that like, give you weapons and warriors, and like up the offering rates of other good cards. But they're probably not going to do that. That seems like a really advanced thing to do, and they're trying to be, I think, less like actually hands-on with the arena. So that's Warrior at the top. The meta is a lot more even now. It's a lot more fun than it was before. It feels, if not fair, at least more predictable. Not just like, oh, Demon Hunter or no Demon Hunter, and much more like, oh, I have to face a wide variety of different classes. Like, you really see the diversity come out in the arena meta now. But it doesn't change the RNG part of it. If anything, it makes the RNG part of it worse, because your top classes are Warrior and Shaman. And Shaman being the top class is just, here are your busted cards that are Shaman cards. How many of them do you get in this run? How many of them do you get to play before you die? Or like, you know, if you're on the opponent's side, you can either kill the Shaman quickly, and, you know, that'll work. Or you can try to make sure the Shaman runs out of cards, because the Shaman will still probably run out of cards because they still can't draw cards, because that's what Shamans don't do. They don't generate cards. But that'll take a really long game. Like, I had 3 Eye of the Storms in my Shaman draft, just to give you an idea of where it was 3 Eye of the Storms and 1 Clouds. So whenever I got there, I won. And I lost when I didn't get there. Like, it's Shaman. It's becoming like a lot. It's always been kind of a coin flip, I think. And this meta, I don't think, is particularly bringing out the skillful aspect of Shaman play. Yeah, so Warrior, Shaman, both very swingy kind of classes. Maybe more or less frustrated to play against than Demon Hunters, but certainly not what we normally call like super high like skill ceiling. That being said, facing a more diverse cast at the top now instead of just Demon Hunter and Warlock certainly feels a lot better, and I think overall the meta has seen a significant improvement. Just overall, we're not going to focus too much on Arena on this particular episode, because Battlegrounds did like so much more stuff, like just transformational stuff. But if you are like waiting because you wanted to wait the Demon Hunters out in the arena, jump back. It was a pretty decent meta, even when Demon Hunters had a 57% win rate. So that should tell you that it's a pretty good meta now. Like, I think this is they fixed it, right? Like, they fixed the things that they should have fixed after 1 week. It took them like 5 weeks to do it, but it's done. We are now in the meta that we always should have been in. And it's good. The diversity is really showing through. Not the highest skill meta, but definitely one of the most interesting metas.
All right. So look, that's Arena. We finally got the micro adjust we should have gotten. Like, this isn't like a, oh, good job, Blizzard. This was like about damn time kind of thing. And you might have seen me give a little bit of a head shake there. And that's just because we're used to this. This is exactly what we're used to with the arena. It's been years and years in which they begrudgingly slowly give us some stuff. I'm at the point now where I'm just like, you know, that's fine. Kind of, you know, it would be insane of me to expect anything more.
Yeah.
I would love to see more stuff, but that's it. Obviously, their interests lie elsewhere, for example, in BGs. So let's just focus on that. And that's where I'm going to put my attention on as well. Because this past week, BGs got the biggest possible change without introducing a new tribe. And in fact, this is like the biggest update that we have actually ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through it.
Okay, before we get there, I want one last word in on Arena, and then we're on to BGs. I want to
That's
give
more
one.
time than Arena deserves, but okay.
It's true, but that's what we do, right? We give Arena more than it deserves. Okay, so one substantive. I know we're not like talking about digging deep into this meta. One, because we've only been in this meta for a couple days. It's not, and the meta's still changing and adjusting, right? Because the old decks are still in the meta somewhat, and people haven't figured out the new meta yet. The meta is going to keep shifting over the course of the next like week or two even. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on it. But one thing that's been true earlier on with the Demon Hunters, but still true now, is drops, right? Drops as the concept of having a good drop, like a 3-4 or 4-5 or whatever, is not anywhere near as important right these days as drops as a concept of having something to do with your mana on turn 2, 3, and 4. Doesn't matter what it is, just like be doing something. Like drop like things that your opponent has to kind of deal with. And it used to be the case that a good drop is infinitely better than a poor drop. And now it's kind of the case that because the power levels have spiked so kind of all over the place, the difference between a bad drop and a regular drop is a little bit closer than I think it was before. But even the more important part is that the difference between a non-drop that you could just play and do something with and a drop when played on that turn has also narrowed the gap. Because what you're trying to do is not take over the board, which used to be the goal of Curvestone. What you're trying to do now is just make sure you don't die. And if you don't die in the early game, the late game stuff is so many leagues ahead in value and tempo and swing. Like between Chimeras and your Claw Machines and your Clowns and your, all the whatever stuff. You just kind of want to get there if you're not going to get the board. So I think you should be very focused on not skipping turns in the early going, because when you skip turns, you're significantly behind, you're seeing a lot of face pressure, and the whole game kind of changes. But I would worry less about making sure you have like 5-4s and 4-5s on turn 4, or like some of these like, like a Harvest Golem or a Elec on turn 3, or an Orc. Those are obviously good, but they're much less important now than they were like 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And it's not a sudden thing. It's not like this patch made it happen, but I think like just from what I'm reading and hearing on Arena HS and just in chat about how people draft and what people have success with, I think quite a decent portion of the player base is not adjusted to that yet. Like even if you're building not like just a super late game deck, you want to make sure that you at least have stuff to do. And one final side note is that the tier list is updated. Finally, it took us as long as Blizzard to update the tier list as it took Blizzard to hit the button. So go check it out. The numbers are very high for good cards because we have fully switched to the value system. Nothing's by percentage anymore. So if a card is good, it's going to show up as good. And yes, that is how good the cards are. There's no floor at 0 anymore. I think that's confusing to some people because there was always a floor or like a rough floor at 0. There's no floor anymore. It's just an arbitrary cutoff at the bottom. So like a card that's worth 2 points is not 20 times lower than a card that's worth 80 points. It's 78 points lower than a card that's 80 points, which means if you take an 80-point card and you add 78 points to that and you get 158 points, the difference between those two cards and the first two cards are the same. You have the same value jump. So each point is worth the same amount. That is still true. So if you have a 300 card and a 100 card versus a 200 card and a 100 card, that means the 300 card is twice as better than the 100 card as the 200 card is better than the 100 card. But it does not mean the 300 card is 3 times as good as the 100 card, because there's a decent portion below 0 of value that you just don't see. And we could not find a good way to show that. We tried. It ended up like anything we tried to do with it ended up being some kind of percentage system and was throwing things off again. So just think of everything in terms of just raw values. A point is a point. Don't think about the bottom. The bottom is not 0. It is significantly below 0. It's like over 100 points below 0 if you're looking at a 10 mana card. So there's plenty of value that's going there. It just gets like cut off because we're not showing all the negative values. On the other hand, for a 0 mana card, the bottom is actually 0. So that's kind of how it scales on the bottom. If it helps to visualize that. So stop thinking in percentages and start thinking in raw values when looking at the tier list. That's why some things are 300 points. It's not 300 times. It's not 3 times a Yeti. It's 200 points better than a Yeti. Okay, that's it for me. I am now going to be a question bot and ask Merps annoying questions about Battlegrounds. So Merps, there's a Battlegrounds update. What was the update?
All right, huge update. This dropped on the 15th, which means it dropped last Tuesday. And let's go through it one by one. And then I'll dig into it a little bit deeper on the podcast. Also, I explained, I gave my review of this patch on YouTube. So good opportunity to plug our YouTube as well. Go check that out if you want my full take on it. And I did that the day immediately after the patch dropped. And I will say my feelings haven't really changed since then. There hasn't been any huge surprises. But the first thing that the patch did was introduce Dark Moon prizes, which are essentially spells in Battlegrounds. And this is a limited time mechanic. So for the next 2 months, you're going to see on turns 4, 8, 12, and 16, and also 20, 24, and so on, although those just repeat the turn 16 prizes, you and everyone in the lobby will get to discover 1 out of 3 prizes, which are spells. And you can hold them in your hand or you can play them on that turn as well. But they introduce extra choices, give you options, and it gives you something to not only look forward to, but to plan your turns around as well. So I won't read out all of them because there's so many of them, but I would like to talk about the prizes available on each sort of tier. So I'll call them tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Remember, that's turns 4, 8, 12, and 16. So that's the big addition right now. And this is one of those events that you're going to see for 2 months, somewhat similar, if you just play Arena, to like the dual classes, or remember years ago when we got cards just for Arena and we felt somewhat special for a little bit. This is kind of like that, where they change up the game a little bit. Not so much so. I will tell you guys, when this came out, I was like, whoa, this is kind of a big change, can create some real clown fiesta situations. My first impressions are, this is so fantastic that I would like for this or something akin to this to be a permanent part of the game. I think it's so skill testing and such a smooth integration, and it really just complements the game mode instead of taking it over or distracting you. So good job, Blizzard. This has been fantastic so far. And let's talk about the tiers so far. You keeping up with me, Adopta? You good?
Yeah, okay. So that's 7 mana, the turn after 10 mana, and then 4 turns after that twice. So you're not really getting your turn 4 prizes, like your prize tier 4. Like, games don't go on for that long, do they?
You rarely get to the 4th tier.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So I have not played a single game of Battlegrounds in the past week, so I have not seen anything of this update. I have not watched anyone play Battlegrounds. I have just read the updates and seen the blog, and I haven't analyzed anything. I am coming at this the way you would if you'd just been kind of out of it for the past week.
Yes. So you are correct in that it is not normal for games to reach turn 16 very often. I would say in my 40-ish games that I've played since the patch has been out, I've reached there like 3-4 times, so it's not super common. It is more common than it used to be because Ice Block is more prevalent, and we can talk about why. But first, so let's just talk about these prizes on tier 1. So this is, in my 40-ish games of experience, I'll let you guys know what my general rankings are, considerations for the prizes. And I've been doing very well in this meta. I've been placing extraordinarily high, and I think that there are some certain nuances in this meta that you need to be doing differently than previous metas, and I'll share those as well. But talking about the prizes, on turn 4 or tier 1, the best overall choice is Might of Stormwind, which is give your minions +1/+1. You should find yourself picking that one the most often. It is just by far the best
How
one.
is that in the same pool as Big Banana? Give a minion +2/+2. I'm
Yeah,
looking at this for basically the
see,
first time. This seems wrong. On the
it is
7 mana
wrong.
turn, you have like 6 minions, don't you?
You have
Like
a
five,
few
six
minions.
minions?
Yeah. You the least you'll have is 4 minions,
Yeah.
right? In which case, it's still
Yeah, like not even
better than
close. Like, what kind of
+2
scaling are you
+3.
getting on your units on
Right.
7 mana?
Right. Well, they're probably thinking like, oh, you're getting rid of a lot of this stuff, but if you have something that you really want to keep, maybe you put plus, and you never do
Oh.
that. You never do that. It's always wrong. It's always wrong. It's you literally never pick Big Banana. I have never ever picked Big Banana before. I've picked all of the other ones on tier 1. I've never picked Big Banana. So Might of Stormwind is by far the best one, and the reason
Mhm.
is early tempo gives you breathing room. Breathing room means you have the freedom to make more choices and take more risks in the early and mid game, which always lets you snowball better into the late game. So that's a great choice there. I will say other ones are a little bit more situational. For example, Gotcha Gift, which is discover a minion
Mhm.
from Tavern Tier 1. That could work depending on your board. I would say that's a much better one for heroes like Rafam and Maev, who are trying to collect tier 1 minions in order to triple. And consideration for the gotcha gift, I see people play it wrong as well when they have Rafam and Maev. If you have a gotcha gift in your hand and you have 2 pairs. So your chances of tripling it are fairly high. I see people trying to go for it right away when the play a lot of times is to actually hold the gotcha gift in your hand so you don't triple it. Therefore, taking the units off the board and leaving yourself weaker, or you're forced to play it and get the triple earlier. You actually should hold it in your hand. So that's an extra consideration for gotcha gift. New recruit, which is add a minion to Bob's
Yeah,
Tavern
I
for
was
the
about
rest
to
of
say
the
that's
game.
the one I saw immediately, and I was like, "Ooh, that could be really good."
It could be good. It could be good. The only problem is that with new recruit, you just have to be fairly comfortable with where you're at,
Uh huh.
and it, I pick it an okay amount. But if you think of it this way, if you're picking that one and other people are picking Might of Stormwind, you're going to get beat up on,
Right.
right? And most people are picking Might of Stormwind. So I have picked new recruit, and I think it's fine. I definitely think it's okay, but it's sort of like oh well, all my choices stink. Like I had Big
Right.
Banana and new recruit, and then something else. I'm like, yeah, sure,
Like the
add an
good
extra.
stuff. What is
Yeah,
this? So the good stuff is give a minion in Bob's shop, give minions in Bob's shop +1 health for the rest of the game. How is that at all comparable to like this other stuff?
their thinking
That's Big
is that
Banana.
the stuff you buy later on is stuff that you'll keep and can utilize the health better.
Yeah, what? Like
However,
one
I
health?
understand.
Like 1 health? If you golden it 2 health is. Oh, sorry, if you golden it 3 health is 2 health or three?
No, three. It's
Three.
three
Okay,
because it
so if you
adds up
golden it,
all
you
the
get three
buffs
health.
together.
Like ooh,
I
this
know.
is
So I pick new recruit sometimes, but Might of Stormwind is clearly by far the number one choice. Pocket Change, which is add 2 gold
uh-huh.
coins to your hand, and Rocking and Rolling, which is your next 3 refreshes cost 0. Those are pretty good choices. Like
Hmm.
if you don't get Might of Stormwind, you typically want an econ one. So it's either Pocket Change or Rocking and Rolling. Pocket Change is usually better for the heroes that need a little bit of help smoothing out the curve. So, for example, if you are Unleash and you already have a very defined and structured leveling curve, you
Mm-hmm.
don't really need pocket change. It's just not necessary. If you're a quote normal hero that doesn't have weight, like that has those awkward turns that are really preventing you from leveling and then leveling again while upgrading your tavern or sorry, your warband, that's when pocket change really shines. Rocking and rolling is just good because it's just gold. It's just 3 gold at some point of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say extra consideration for Millhouse here. If you're Millhouse, the 3 extra refreshes are basically 6 gold. So super duper good with Millhouse. I would uh, pick Rocking and Rolling over Might of Stormwind as Millhouse a decent amount of times because on 6 gold, you're probably going to beat your opponent. Well, it depends on your board, but like 90% of the time, you have your opponent. So getting those refreshes is really, really good. And that's sort of tier 1.
I can't believe Big Banana's in these options.
It shouldn't be.
Like,
It really
as
shouldn't be.
bad as the good stuff is, it's still so much better than Big Banana.
Yes.
And the other ones
Yes.
just kind of blow these two out of the water.
Yes. Definitely. Okay. Let's go to prize turn 2, which is turn 8. So turn 8
Turn
is
8,
the 8.
11 mana. Or 10 mana plus 1 turn.
Well, yeah. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, it's exactly 10
Wait, it's
on 10
exactly
mana.
10 mana?
Remember, 3 equals 1. 3.
Uh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
3, right?
Mm-hmm.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're on your turn 8. You
Oh,
get
wait. So
exactly.
prize turn 1 is on 6 mana, not 7 mana?
Yes, it's on
Oh,
6.
I thought it was on 7 mana. Okay. That makes Might of the Stormwind a little less OP than I thought it was.
No, I
Because
mean
I
it's
thought it
still
was on
ridiculous.
7 mana, and then I was like,
No,
what are
it's
you
still ridiculous.
doing, game? Okay, it's 6 mana. I see. It's still OP, but
Yeah.
less ridiculously so
So
than I
look,
thought. Okay.
here, if you're thinking about on turn 8 is exactly when a lot of classes will be on tier 4 with the potential maybe of going to tier 5. And if you're for example Unleash, you're on tier 5 with the potential to go to tier 6. So here is the kind of the breakdown of the prizes from your turn 8. The best ones far, by far, are either on the house, which is discover a minion from your current tavern
Mm-hmm.
tier, or Time Thief, which is discover a minion from your last opponent's warband. Now, Time Thief could be better than on the house, but it depends on your opponent, right? And
Mm-hmm.
on the house is really, really good because it allows you to, no matter who you are, level, whether it's to 6 or to 5 on that turn, and not miss a beat because you get to discover something from there. You don't have to stick around on tier 4 and just like kind of, maybe I'll be lucky enough to pick up a few +2/+2 or +4/+4 buffs. You can go immediately to 5 or go immediately to 6 and discover. It's part of the reason why Elise is so powerful right now. If you think about on turn 8, she has the option to go to tier 6 and then so with 9 so basically what Elise does on this exact turn, level, sell off one of the units to discover a tier 6 and then with on the house discover another tier 6. So on this turn when everyone is thinking of going on to 5, Elise is already on 6 discovering double 6 drops. That's why
Mm-hmm.
Unleash is ridiculously good. And it's also why On the House is ridiculously good as well. Between all the other ones, there are decent options. I would say if you're weak and you're a little bit afraid and you just need a little bit more time, the Bouncer is pretty decent because the Bouncer is give a minion +5/+5 and taunt. And if you look at the other tempo option, which is Gruul Rules, that's give a minion
It's
at
a
the end of your
questionable
turn.
tempo option. I think it's a late game option, right? It like splits the difference.
Yeah, but it is at least some tempo.
Yeah.
So at the end of your turn, gain +2/+2. Have I picked it? Yes. I do not pick it very often. It's not great because if you're looking for the stats, just get the bouncer. And if you're looking for some sort of econ play, you either go for the unlimited
Unlimited
coin.
coin. That's interesting.
Yep, that's
That
pretty
feels
good.
like is that pretty good? Because that feels like
It's
it's a
okay.
little low value by the time you have 10 mana.
No, I mean it's fine because if you're thinking you're gonna go through the game like more and more, yeah, it's fine. It's definitely a pickable thing. I have picked Brand's Blessing, which is your battle cries trigger twice this turn if you just need a crucial power turn. So, for example, if you're going Murlocs and you haven't found the brand yet, but you say, "Oh, I need tempo this turn," well, why pick the bouncer when you can pick
Mm-hmm.
Brand's Blessing instead? So it's sort of a situational, it depends on your board kind of thing. Don't pick Great Deal. Great Deal is for
Not
the
a
rest of
great
the
deal.
game reduce the cost of upgrading Bob's Tavern by 2 instead of 1 at the end of your turn. Just not good. Really not great. Evolving Tavern is okay. That's replace all minions in Bob's Tavern with one of a higher tavern tier. It's okay. It's not the thing you exactly want, but
How is that
sometimes
okay? That's awful. You're gonna get like one or two random rolls of a 6 drop, like
yeah,
of a tier
it's okay.
6 minion, and that's it.
Yeah, it's fine. And all the other ones get bumped up a tier as well.
Yeah, yeah,
It
and you're
like
not getting
on
it
the
this turn
whole,
either. You're gonna get it the turn after that because you're probably not on 5 with your full mana on
could
10 mana.
I mean you could be, but
Like you're
like
probably
this is
leveling up to 5 at
where
this.
I have picked it sometimes, and it's fine. It's definitely not your first pick. Like between Evolving Tavern or On the House, you pick On the House every single time. There's like no reason for Evolving Tavern really, but sometimes you just get unlucky. So Evolving Tavern is not the worst thing. All right, now we go to tier 3, which is turn 12. This is the end game here. This is like 3 people left kind of thing, because the games in BGs escalate fairly quickly. So the overall, just the overall best one is Buy the Holy Light here. Very simple. Give a minion Divine Shield. Very simple. But giving whatever the heck you want Divine Shield is really, really freaking good. I mean, it's like uh, doubling stats. It's just like doing a lot of this stuff is fantastic. Now, I would put it on a similar tier to Ice Block, but you can't really compare them. It's very, very different here.
Mm-hmm.
Ice Block can be so good for just saving you MMR. And I would always pick Ice Block if I don't think I can win. And
Mm-hmm.
there's like 3 people left. Also, there's only 2. Like I've also seen people pick like Ice Block when they're for example like super weak, and then they like there's only 2 people left, or they're facing the ghost that turn. I'm like, wait, why'd you pick Ice Block? You like literally pick anything else, because if you have like no shot anyways, like why are you anyways? um if you think you have a chance, go for the win. Pick something like Buy the Holy Light. uh Other things that are decent is Top Shelf
Yeah,
is
top
decent.
shelf
Just
looks decent.
discover a tier 6. That's pretty good. Training Session could be really, really good,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a hero that's exhausted your hero power by this time. For example, Elise, she's done at this point. Also, I keep on talking about Elise because she just like benefits so much from all of these. At this point, Elise is done with her hero power. Why not get George's hero power? Why not get like a Lich King hero power? It's pretty ridiculous here. So training session is good, but I would typically take the security of Buy the Holy Light or Top Shelf. The others are decent, but all that glitters, which is make a random minion Bob's Tavern Golden, is typically just a worse version of Top
Yeah, I was
Shelf.
about to say.
So you could go for the high roll there, or you can, do. There's weird niche scenarios where you can make that better than Top Shelf. Like you can almost guarantee that that's better, but very rare. Bananas is decent. So
Yeah, plus 10,
bananas
plus
is
10.
no, it's more.
What? Yeah, your hand size is bigger than 10?
No, your hand size is 10, but you have chances of getting big bananas.
Oh,
Yeah, and
that's bananas.
I don't know the exact percentage, but when I've been seeing people, on average, they get like 3 big bananas.
Okay.
So it ends up being like a plus 13, plus 13,
Distributed however you want. That's pretty
however you
good.
want. Not bad, right? Not
Uh
bad.
huh. A lot better than I'm still just a rat in a cage. Why did this card get made?
So I'm still just a rat in a cage. It says double minions attack. It's okay. You can put on a cleave. And because sometimes
But
cleaves at that point
why?
already.
Like, yeah, you have to have a cleave at that point that's at least over 13 attack.
Yes. And you don't want the health on. Well, look, sometimes you just don't get the bananas option, right? And you still want something to buff your cleave.
Alright.
You don't get to discover out of 8. You
Yeah,
get to
that's true.
discover out of 3. So
So it's
it
just
is what
meant to be bad.
yeah, it's typically not very good. But that's sort of the analysis there. And repeat customers just not great.
What's it meant to do?
What repeat
Yeah,
customer?
I'm failing to see what it's meant to do. I
Repeat customer.
understand that it sucks and it won't work, but what's it meant to do?
Repeat customer says return a friendly non-golden minion to your hand. Give it +2/+2. So what you can do with repeat customer is, you can return an Amalgadon to your hand in order for it to re-get the battle cries. You can return, for example, like a Murazon, a Primal Fin Lookout. So those are the typical main uses out of it. You can return a beast, and let's say you have double mama bears in order to get that buff. So these are things that
So
you can
all of
do with
these
it.
are worse than bananas.
Well, no, bananas is stats, but if you return like a primal fin to your hand in order to get the battle cry, you can get like a triple, right? For example. So they could be worse, but they could be a lot better as well.
Okay.
Yeah. You're essentially like renting Jandis's hero power, which speaks to how powerful Jandis's hero power is. You're just like, hey, Jandis, let me borrow your hero power for one teeny tiny split second right there. So that's it. And lastly, for tier 4, this is the 1v1 scenario. I've had one time where on turn 16 there were still 3 people left, but I don't know if I'm going to see that again anytime soon, because one of them was the great Akazamzarak, who kept on getting ice blocks. So it was just me and this other guy pounding on Akazamzarak and him never ever dying. And then he discovered the ice block again, like on his previous turn. So on the turn he didn't get an ice block from his hero power, he
You got it
discovered
from the
ice block
prize.
from the tier 3. Yeah, so he just kept on bashing his face in, but he would never die. And that's how games went for quite a while. I think that game actually went to turn 20 because this Akazamzarak just didn't die. And then I ended up tying the other guy. So it was just like a whole ordeal. But the best prize or treasure from tier 4 is without a doubt give a dog a bone, which is give a friendly minion divine shield, wind fury, and +10/+10. Pretty freaking good. You put that on a cleave, like for example Hydra, that's really good. Divine shield and wind fury, and you're buffing it. Just absolutely disgusting.
I don't know. Is that better than Big Winner? Big Winner seems like a pretty big winner.
Big winner is decent, but it can whiff. And at this point, if you're in it, like you just need that little bit of extra stuff, right, in order to push yourself like to the finish line. And also, Menagerie these days is by far the best tribe. So you're gonna have one thing, at least, probably like at least one thing that doesn't have divine shield yet. So it's basically like you just taking a better version of By the Holy Light, which is fine. Like you getting Divine Shield on something that didn't have Divine Shield is really, really good. You can take Big Winner, but then of course, like nothing on the first tier is good, right? Like impactful. On the second tier, yeah, you might get on the house, which is fine. But do you really need to discover a 6-drop at that time, right? Like at that point, you already have your Amalgadons. Like your comp is pretty complete. This is turn 16. This isn't even turn like 13 in which you're still figuring it out. By that time, you're good. You just need that little bit of extra push. And a Divine Shield Wind Fury and something that doesn't have it yet is typically much better than you being like, oh, maybe I'll discover this, or maybe I'll discover that. And on turn 16, not much else is great. You would expect some real heavy hitters, but some of these just like refresh your gold, make minions a little bit cheaper. It's like, dude, Blizzard, this is turn 16. The game's over. I just need that huge closer. Argent Braggart is interesting, but
replace your bumper with an 80/80 or whatever minion you have.
Basically, because this is the meta of Unlistra, which I will talk about in a second, and Amalgadons. It's Unlistras and Amalgadons. So something like an Argent Braggart really doesn't do much. Stats can win some games, but Amalgadons are still king. Unlistra messes up a lot of things. So Argent Braggart, I've personally never picked it. I've seen other people pick it, and then I promptly kill it with an Amalgadon. So it doesn't do much there. And I would say if you are unlucky, like if you don't pick Give a Dog a Bone, pick Big Winner. That's definitely because you can still discover stuff. You can do, you can then pick up an Ice Block as well.
You shouldn't take Open Bar?
Yeah, your first 5 refreshes cost 0 instead of like rocking. It's slightly better than a tier 1 prize. I truly don't understand. I really don't get it.
Well, if the game goes on forever, you can get a lot of value out of it.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. But those are sort of my rankings for the prizes. I think a lot of people would agree with them. It'd be interesting to hear if there were any huge disagreements. But I've also been doing really well in the meta against top competition because of the internal MMR system. So I have a lot of faith in this. I believe in these current rankings so far.
Yeah, I mean, they seem intuitive to me in that I would have picked more or less the same ones that you did, and I haven't played the game at all.
I'm losing faith in it.
They don't seem balanced is kind of my point. Like, Blizzard put them out there without like a ton of testing, or they didn't care that it was balanced because it's like an event, right?
Yeah, you know what though? I feel as though even though some treasures or prizes from a certain tiers just seem strictly worse than others, I don't really mind it because, like I said, you sometimes you just like bomb and you don't get like the good one, but I will gladly take the worst version of it because I needed something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
like you need a 3-drop, so you take a 3-drop.
Right, exactly. But so, for example, there's like econ prizes, right? And I'm glad there's not just like one econ prize because if I want econ, I'll just take it, even though it's not the best econ prize. If I want the tempo, all right, I'm never picking Big Banana, but if I want tempo, for lots of tiers, they have like different tempo options. So I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, I want tempo, I'll take this. If I want econ, I'll take that. And there's lots of different ones so that I'm happy if I get the best one, but if I don't, well, if I just want to econ anyways, sure, let's take a worse econ option, but I'm still econing, right? I'm still doing exactly what I want. I still get to pick and choose how I can further my game plan here.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go over the new heroes very quickly, and then we can go to the changes to the new minions that are coming in, because it's a totally different meta now.
So look, we can go through the heroes fairly quickly. Oh, right, you want to read them?
Yeah, I want to read them for people who are like me and don't actually know what the new heroes do.
Read them.
First up, Cthulhu. Cthulhu is in 2 mana. Hero power is 2 mana. At the end of the turn, give a friendly minion +1/+1. upgrades after each use. So the first time you use it, you get +1/+1, then you get +2/+2, then +3/+3, and so on and so forth. Is this busted? This feels busted.
Cthulhu? Oh no, Cthulhu sucks
Really?
big time. Yes.
Oh, but is that just because like Van Cleef also sucks big time?
Well, here it's okay. I'll tell you right now. From HS Replay, looking at the top 1%, right?
Yeah.
Top 1%, and realize that the stats right now are not going to be, or the rankings are not going to be super accurate because MMR hasn't stabilized, right? So it's hard for them to.
Oh, you can't target. I'm reading chat right now.
Yeah,
I
you can't.
missed it. That's right. It's Cthulhu. It's gonna be random. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is terrible then.
Target it.
Oh my god, this is terrible then.
Yes, it's not
Okay.
good.
But this went from like, whoa, this is kind of OP, probably, maybe, to like, oh no, this is terrible. Okay. Okay, I missed that. Alright, moving on. Don't pick Cthulhu. Nazoth is next. Nazoth, passive hero power. Start the game with a 1/1 fish that gains all of your death rattles in combat. This feels pretty awkward to play.
It's okay. I got my first place with Nazoth so that I'd never have to play him again. And I did it by selling the fish in the mid game. Buy fish, thanks for the 1 gold. But I have seen some crazy stuff being done with the fish because it gains all of your death rattles that were previously procced in combat. So you have a spawn, okay. You have Sneeds, that's great. You have a Coiler, okay. You have an
But it
egg.
has to proc.
Huh?
The death rattles have to proc first.
Right. So you taunt up the other stuff, you put your fish last.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then once the fish dies, all of those things that previously procced will proc again because of the fish. So it's got some potential. The problem is you can't guarantee all these death rattles. And it gets a little bit awkward in the mid game when Bob just isn't throwing a lot of these death rattles at you. So it's okay. You can do a lot of fun things with it, and it opens up a lot of these cheesy compositions. But there's a reason why it's not very high on HS Replay right now.
All right. The last one is Yasharaj. Yasharaj, 2 mana hero power. Start of combat. Combat. Add a minion from your tavern tier to your warband. Keep it. So you can get a coin out of it at the end, and you're going to get a sizable minion for that 1 turn of combat.
Yep. If you think about it, it seems like a worse version of Yogg Saron in that with Yogg, you get the minion at the beginning of your turn instead of, or sorry, you get it before the battle begins.
So you know what to do with it?
Yeah, instead of after the battle begins. Also, so you're able to plan with it, and with Yogg you get the +1/+1. Here you don't.
Well, here you get it has to be your tavern tier, which is much better than Yogg. It's starting from like the mid game.
Yeah, starting from the mid game in which you always have to leave a slot open.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means really bad stuff. And you could always just bomb because there's always just buffs on every single tier. So you thinking, oh man, like I'm doing it. I'm on Tavern 5, so I want a good 5 drop, and then out pops Strong Shell Scavenger with you starting at 6 units, and it's just really bad. It's like really, really bad. So the problem with Yasharaj, and I played with him a couple of times, after like turn 6 or so, you just can't use the hero power anymore because I can't play a minion down guessing what I'm going to get. It's just not good.
Sure,
I can't.
Can't you have a bumper? Like your spot that you use to like buff stuff?
Yeah, but then I'm always like going second.
What do you mean you're always going second? Oh! This affects whether you go first or second?
I believe so, yeah. If I remember correctly, because I haven't played him recently, but I always went second during those times.
Oh my god, I didn't
Unless
think of
I
that.
got incredibly unlucky. So.
Oh, that's terrible if it makes you go second.
Yeah.
Why? Oh,
From my
okay.
experience,
Move
and
on.
right, this was something I considered. So I think it was like, when I played Yashiraj, it was like 8 times in a row. So if I was just got super duper unlucky, but I believe because if you see the way it happens as well, it's like it establishes your board of 6 and then it adds a minion and then the combat begins. So the game has already established, yes, you always go second, which is
Uh-huh.
bad. As we
Okay.
all know, like not ever having the chance to go first is not a good thing in Battlegrounds.
Yeah, okay. So that's terrible. That's okay.
Yeah.
Don't pick
So,
these guys. Maybe the
yeah,
fish for fun.
they are quite bad.
All right.
Um, mhm.
Okay. So Galakron got removed.
He is
Sir
removed.
Finley is
Rip
back.
Galacron.
Sir Finley is
Sir
back.
Finley is back. Yep.
The secret dude now has competitive spirit, and he is back. He had a bug before, so he was gone.
He's
But he's
okay.
back now, and competitive spirit is added. And he's always been like mid tier. Is he still mid tier?
The Great Akazamzarak.
Yeah.
The Great Akazamzarak is actually good.
What?
Yeah. As of right now, he is the third best hero in the game.
What?
He's like tied with Millhouse. Yeah.
Why?
Well, his hero power only costs
Oh, that's right. They reduced his hero power and then immediately removed it. So it's actually 2 buffs in one. You just don't see the other buff because no one got to play with it.
Yeah, and also competitive spirit is quite good.
Yeah.
Competitive spirit is 1 mana +1/+1 to everything on your board that you get to keep. So that's really good. Yes. Akazamzarak is quite a good hero now. He's like on the tier of Millhouse.
Cool. Okay. They also increased the number of tickets you get with Silas. I have no idea what that does to him.
I played him. I got a first with him, but it's hard to notice because I don't exactly know the hard percentage of from before. So when I'm trying to compare it just by eye, compared to my memory of before, I don't really see a difference. But it's not like they're giving us numbers, right? It's not like saying, oh, there was a 20% chance for a ticket to appear on each minion,
Yep.
and now there's a 30% chance. You just can't tell. You just can't eyeball those percentages because it's not like they definitely didn't increase it from like 20% to 50%, right? It's definitely not that big. So I don't really notice the difference. I have played him a few times just to try to see. I can't really tell a difference.
Okay. Next up, Zephyr's got buffed. Instead of 4 mana, 3 wishes cost 3 mana.
Zephyr's is fine. He's good. He's right now like low tier 3, upper tier 4.
Yeah.
I played him a lot in this patch actually, just because I always want to try out new heroes. He's been performing okay for me. Zephyrus is always one of those where I'm just like, wait, you should be better.
He should be better, right? But this is not a big buff. This was a 3 mana buff.
Yeah, this is a 3 mana buff
in the mid late game.
And it smooths out a lot of those mid turns in which you might not have been able to hero power without selling off one extra thing. So it's significant, but he's still not OP to this point. I'm still waiting for the Reno Jackson effect where starts off at 4, ends up at 0. Let's go, Zephyrus.
No way. They're going to make this a 2 at best. But I think they may just stop here. Because it's circumventing a mechanic in the game. It's not something they want to be too powerful. All right, Patches finally got buffed from 4 mana to 3 mana.
Yep. Patches right now is fine. I played him. He's still not OP. The problem is just anytime you hard force one particular tribe,
especially
that's rough.
If the tribe is named Pirates.
Yeah, and Pirates are okay. Like they're not as bad as they were months ago, but it's still not enough for Patches to be good. Like Patches is definitely better now, because Patches was kind of unplayable before, and this buff is huge. So if you like playing it, just go ahead and you're gonna win a little bit more. But definitely not enough to make patches OP.
Mm. All right, so those are the new heroes. From here on out, they added like a crap ton of minions. So before we talk about the minions they added, really quickly talk about the minions they took away. Righteous Protector is gone on tier 1. It's going to be replaced by something else. The Beast is gone from tier 3, I think.
Yes.
I'm so glad the Beast is gone. Just annoying me to see it. Oh, sorry. Crowd Favorite is gone. That's a bit of a bummer.
Why? Yeah, why?
Well, they need to make room for all these new minions, right? They didn't want to dilute everything. It's too bad. And then Shifter Zerus is gone. Thank you. That was always something that needed to go at some point.
Nope. Well, you're in the minority here, right? Even among like competitive players, I think.
Yeah, I just mean like it's a gimmick, and those things have shelf lives, and I feel like Zerus has outlived its shelf life.
I don't think so, man. I am all for Shifter staying, but we'll see. Hopefully, Shifter is able to come back once Wizard sees the error of their ways.
I mean, if they ever take these cards out, right, like, or they take out the Divine Shield stuff or whatever, right, Shifter can make a comeback. I feel like Shifter is a good like filler card where people don't mind it, people like actively like it, but you don't need him to do anything in the meta. Okay, so a new set has come in on the minion side. So it's not just spells. There's also a whole new set of neutral minions, +1 demon, that's going to be in everything. So these are very influential potentially. But let's talk about the one demon that comes in first, just because it's kind of separate from everything else. So the demon that's coming in is Big Furno, which is a tier 4 demon. On tier 4, we already have what's that guy called? Floating Watcher. This one's another 4/4 at tier 4, and it says after you summon a demon, gain +1/+1 permanently. So it's like Floating Watcher, only you don't lose health, and you only gain half of the. Only you don't have to lose health to have a trigger. It's just whenever you summon a demon, and it gains half the amount. It grows half as fast.
Yep. And most importantly, this gains stats from stuff like Imp Mama, from Void, from Imprisoner, etc., etc. It's summon a demon, not just play a demon. So what this does is not only give demons an alternative to scaling, in addition to Floating Watcher, it makes it such that the Juggler package has some scaling as well. If you have Imprisoners, each one that dies adds additional stats to Big Fernal permanently. If you have a Void Lord, it does the same. If you have Imp Mama, it does the same. So it just gives demons more options and more scaling, which is something that demons have always needed.
Yep. All right. What would you say? Would you take this over Floating Watcher if you're going big demons?
No, I would always take the Floating Watcher. If you have the Wrathweaver, you would take Floating Watcher, because at that point, even if you are going, even if you have like a Juggler or you had a Juggler, you're going to phase out of that pretty quickly. So Big Fernal is like just a worse version of Floating Watcher on most demon boards, but it's another demon, which is good.
Yep, demons needed a little more consistency too. Okay, so now we are on to the neutral package that came in. You wanna take these?
Sure. So what Blizzard has done is say we don't have to keep on adding a new tribe. We can add neutral minions that work with each other, and this package includes Taunt as a focus for all of these minions. First on tier 1, we have Acolyte of Cthulhu, which is a tier 1 2/2 minion with Taunt and Reborn. It's just a solid minion that is most of the times better than Righteous Protector, which was removed. Righteous Protector was better for getting buffs because of its Divine Shield, but Acolyte of Cthulhu just gives you more at the beginning, and importantly, on turn 1, if you're buying this, it ties with all 2/3s and the 2/4 demon as well. So quite a powerful minion at the start. Next, we have Tormented Ritualist, tier 2. a 2/3 taunt. Whenever this is attacked, give adjacent minions +1/+1.
Is this like
So
super good on like in the beginning?
this is pretty good. Like I
Because it's
take
like
it sometimes.
Yeti stats.
Yeah, the problem is the 2/3 almost always gets eaten.
Uh,
So yes, it's like a 4/5, but for the same reason that like Razorfen Hunter, right, is a 3/4 stats, but no, like Razorfen Hunter isn't as good, right? Because you're getting the stats, but this thing just gets completely eaten.
mhm.
So yes, Tormented Ritualist is good, and I take it sometimes. And it's a significantly above average tempo play, but it's not as good as like you might think it is,
Okay.
mostly because of like its own stats.
Would you take it or the dragon dude? That like the dragon 2/4.
Oh, it depends on a few factors. I'll say, for example, if it is on turn 5,
Yeah,
I'll,
well, like
I'll
on the earliest turn, you get tier 2 minions.
yeah, I'll probably take the dragon still because it's a 4/4, and I'll just take that 4/4. Plus I like having tribes earlier on,
Mm.
in order to have that flexibility, or like in order to have kind of stuff that can be buffed, stuff that can work with other cards. And these taunt cards, these neutral cards, are just purely stats.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends, but I take the dragon such that if I get other dragons, it works a little bit better. If I get a cup to buff tribes, that's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
better. So I will give up stats sometimes in order to um, set myself up a little bit better. So yeah, if it's between this and the dragon, I'll probably take the dragon. The dragon has a little bit more of a future, and it's got more things that it can point me towards.
Okay, then this is not actually that good because that dragon was always kind of a borderline pick where you're like not super unhappy to get it, but you're just like, okay, here's a tier 2 minion I can take.
I like getting that dragon. I don't know about you, man. That dragon is like an above average pick for me.
Really?
It is. It
It's a
is.
2/4 one that gets attack when it attacks?
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's a 4/4.
It's a 4/4 in
It's
the
good.
early going, then you want to not put it as early, and then it starts having a little bit of trouble.
Sure, but at that time, like, what it, like nothing is gonna be kept for the late game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna take a 4/4.
Okay. Next up, Warden of the Old. That's your tier 3 minion. There are going to be 2 tier 3 minions in this package. So the first one is Warden of the Old, 3 mana, tier 3, 3/3. Death Rattle, add a gold coin to your hand.
It's an econ option. So on tier 2, you have the Gambler, which you buy for 3 and you can sell for 3. Warden of Old, you don't get it back immediately, but you can use it to farm. And you can use it with Baron. You can use it with the fish. This is actually how I won with the fish. I sold the fish after I was able to farm gold off of double Warden of Olds. So every single turn, I got 4 gold, 1 gold each from Warden of Old. And then the fish gave me another 2 gold as well. So then I just power leveled and then spiked because of my econing with this. Thank you, fish. And then the fish was gone. But the this one, you won't see that often as well. The econ there is just not as strong, and you have to keep it on your
You have to
board
keep a
for like
3/3 on your board for way too long.
yeah. So it's fine. I've taken it once or twice, but you don't see it too often in high MMR lobbies.
All right. The other tier 3 one is a tier 3 Yeti stats 4/5. Whenever a friendly taunt minion is attacked, give it +3 attack. Remember, there used to be a card that was neutral tier 3 that was a 4/5 that gave your taunts +2 attack. This one is plus. It's just a better version of that, basically.
It's a better version unless you want your taunt minions to attack early on.
Right.
In which case, they're not getting it. Armor of the Empire is decent. 4/5 is fine. How many times do we take just a typical tier 3 4/4 for stats.
Yep.
You do that quite a decent amount. So Arm of the Empire is good, and a lot of these taunt minions at the start of the game don't really scale well into the mid game, like stuff that you've picked up, right? For example, an Acolyte of Cthulhu, or a Yoho Ogre, which is like a 2/5, and at that point is really lacking. That's not doing much. And that, but you pick up an Arm of the Empire, and suddenly those things have 5 attack instead of 2 attack. So it's a pretty good tempo play, and with the body as well, it's a definition of a solid tempo pickup that can help you stave off people in the mid game.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to pick it a lot. Now moving on to the tier 4 minions. 2 taunt minions in tier 4 as well. So up until this point, there hasn't really been much dilution because you took away 2 tier 3 minions, you added 2 tier 3 minions, you took away a tier 1 minion, you added a tier 1 minion, and then you added a tier 2 minion to the pool for a little bit of dilution on tier 2. But tier 2 always needed a little more dilution, I feel. So that's all fine. But now we're on tier 4, and tier 4 is where things are going to get diluted because there are no tier 4 minions that were taken away. So you are just adding 2 minions into the pool in every single pool that you play because they're neutral. All right. Not to mention that demons also got a tier 4 unit. So a lot of dilution happening on tier 4. So the first one for the taunt package is a 5/5 after a Kiraji Harbinger. After a friendly minion with taunt dies, give its neighbors +2/+2. So presumably you have a couple of taunt minions, and then this one's a pretty good stat stick.
Yep. We might as well just read the next one as well. There's Champion of Yasharaj, which is a tier 4 2/2 minion. Whenever a friendly taunt minion is attacked, gain +1/+1 permanently. They're really trying to push this taunt package here. And these two are supposed to be the backbone of the taunt package. And it just doesn't work.
I was like, it doesn't look like it works.
It really just doesn't work. I've seen people pick this, and I would strongly advise against picking this. Now, this is Battlegrounds, which means it's a limited format, which is like, sometimes you just have to pick the Razorfin hunters, right?
Right, but like I feel like these aren't meant to like dominate the end game. I feel like especially something like Kiraj Harbinger, it's meant to like get you through a turn or two. And
it's meant to get you through a turn or two. The problem is lots of times there are still better things than the Harbinger. If for some reason it just fits your comp at that time, sure, go ahead, pick it up. I would not pick up Champion of Yasharaj ever, almost, because it either doesn't work for you or
you're going to lose.
Because
you have too many taunt minions and you suck.
You have too many taunts, and it just doesn't really work. If I'm missing something, you guys can let me know. But when I play in my lobbies, I never pick it, and I win a lot. Whenever I see someone who has it, they never do well. And I have never seen anyone in my lobbies win with a Champion of Yasharaj on their board, ever. This is like 40 games in the new patch, by the way. So it has not worked for anyone that I have seen. So it's something in which you can use it to get a little bit of strength in the mid game. And by that, I'm talking about Kiraji Harbinger. Champion of Yasharaj is like a scaling unit, but you have to keep taunt units in your comp in order for that to keep scaling.
You have to use, you're going to have like 1 or 2 taunts anyway, right? Like no matter what comp you have. So if you have like really, really large taunt units and it could get attacked multiple times, right? Maybe this will scale like in a like normal way, like the same way that your pirate dude scales.
Yeah, the problem is this isn't even like a gold grubber meta as well. This is a menagerie and power leveling meta. So is Champion of Yasharaj like dead in the water? No, not exactly. But I can tell you right now, it's not a good meta for Champion of Yasharaj. And I don't know if we'll ever have a good meta for it, but maybe. It's just not a good meta for it right now. And Karaji Harbinger is just, it's a tempo unit. You can pick it up, whatever. But that's it for the Taunt Tribe here.
No,
Because
no, no. Well, there's one more Taunt Tribe.
no, that's not a Taunt Tribe. That's just a everything. No, if you call that a Taunt Tribe, like unit, that's like saying that Holy Mackerel
Fine.
before was a Murloc
Fine.
only unit. You know what I
Fine,
mean?
fine.
Holy Mackerel you put into literally every single composition you could, just like you put Alistra the Immortal into every single composition. So since you're talking about that, let's just go to Alistra for a sec. Alistra is a tier 6 unit, the newest tier 6 unit. It is 7 attack, 7 health, Divine Shield, Reborn. Whenever a friendly taunt minion is attacked, this gets attacked instead. Welcome to the most infuriating card we have seen since Holy Mackerel. Amalgadon is still the king of Battlegrounds and the king of tier 6, but Alistra is definitely the queen. And together they dominate the meta. Like Amalgadon gives you your power, Alistra gives you that tech, that flexibility, and it's just so annoying because it just sucks up so many hits. If you go elementals, for example, like big elementals, poison can counter you fairly easily, but with a single Alistra, you guarantee yourself a win because all of the hits just go into your Alistra. What Alistra also does for like dragon comps as well, what you can do is, my Divine Shield Amalgadons can hit, and then my Nadina can hit afterwards. And I don't have to worry about bad RNG because there is no such thing as bad RNG with Alistra. My double poison Amalgadons always get to bop in first, and then my Nadina always gets to hit in and die. And then, while everything's pounding on the Alistra. It has warped the end game so much. And yes, there are ways, very clever ways to try to play around it. But I hate what it's done and the impact that a single unit can have on the game.
What is the clever ways to get around this?
So, if you know that your opponent has an Alistra, a few of the things that you want to do is you actually want to invert the placement of units. So, what you want to do, first of all, is recognize Alistra takes 4 hits to kill. These are 4 hits that are like just not very hard to kind of basically it's just a 7/7, right? But it has a divine shield. So what you want to do is you actually want to use your non-divine shielded units first, because you can use their HP. So that like 25 unit, which is like your worst unit, okay, well, you're going to put that either first or second. So if you have like a selfless or a bumper, you can use that. And then you want to use the health of like your 2 minis that don't have divine shields because you don't want to waste the divine shields, right? So you want to place 3 things that don't have divine shields to all bump into the Alistra. And then your divine shields go in afterwards. You're like big hitter guys.
You mean 4 units?
What?
You mean 4 units?
Yeah, so your bumper and then your
3 other
your
units,
bumper
okay.
and then 3 other things, right? So you want to use the health, and then like your poisonous Amalgadons or whatever, then they can go in when it matters, when it actually matters. Because your first 4 hits don't matter. So don't use up your huge poison divine shield on a stupid Alistra when you can actually use the health of stuff that probably is just going to get one shot anyways when the kind of final battle is kind of figuring itself out. But therein creates the mind game of Alistra. Like, if you guess wrong and you don't know their comp and they have an Alistra and you end up wasting your poison divine shields on it, well, that sucks. If you think they have Alistra but they don't have Alistra, well, you just completely screwed yourself with your positioning and you're gonna lose. It's a very like it turns into this like weird guessing game. And you can also do mind games where you show an Alistra and then you sell your Alistra so that their positioning is all messed up. and then you can capitalize on it. But it warps the game too much. So the stuff that you were able to do with like a Righteous Protector to block stuff, to absorb double Divine Shields, Unlistra does to like a supreme degree. And
it's making. I mean, the end game to some extent was always rock paper scissors,
yeah.
of guessing what your opponent has and your opponent selling it and putting some other tech unit in. And this makes it super rock paper scissors and makes the what have I been doing up until this point part matter a lot less.
Now, it hasn't ruined the game. I will tell you guys right now, is the meta in a good spot? Is it skill testing? Is it fun? Yes. Yes to all of that. It's just Unlistra. Unlistra is like this one, like, you know, you're feeling like, here's the analogy. You know, you're on vacation, right? You don't got to worry about work. You're laying on the beach. Everything's good. The weather is perfect. You got a drink in your hand. Everything is good. But you got some sand wedged between your toes, and it just kind of feels bad. You know, you're just like, oh man, that it's like it feels really uncomfortable. But everything's actually pretty great. But oh man, this just really sucks. That's exactly it. That's sort of where the meta is. Overall, it's actually really good. I just can't help but think about this one aspect that is really, really annoying. Like just really bothering me, and that is Unlistra and how she completely warps the end game, because the end game is all about attack order. Attack order is everything in the end game. And once again, pimping our YouTube, we're gonna have a game up in which I had the most disgusting first place with Alakir that I've ever had. And if you see my board versus their board at the end, spoiler alert, I won, and I had no reason to win except I had an Illustra and I played around, and I positioned perfectly to play with my Illustra and versus their Nadina, such that I was able to win, even though I probably had like 3 turns less scaling than they did.
Damn.
So that's what Illustra has done. It allows stuff like this, but it makes it such that there's a guessing game as well. Like, do they have Illustra? Do they not? And if you guess wrong, because you literally flip your attack order in order to play around Illustra.
Yeah.
Like, so this is one of those things where it's not just like, oh, do I put a bumper or do I not put a bumper? And then I get somewhat screwed there. This is like, do I lose huge or do I win huge based on exactly how you're doing it?
I'm not looking forward to seeing Illustra, but then again, I mean, it's endgame, right? Like Illustra's power is super endgame, and I don't really care about the endgame. So, because at that point, I'm already in the top 5. So, what do I care? Okay, so we jumped all the way to tier 6. There's actually 2 tier 5 units that have also added, but they are not taunt related, and they do not have the word taunt anywhere in there. So we separated them out for the end. The first one is Faceless Tavern Goer. It's a tier 5 unit, 4/4, battle cry. Choose a minion in Bob's Tavern. Transform into a plain copy of it. So you have your faceless manipulator. And then you can technically make a golden version, and you will transform into a golden version of that as well. That feels pretty basic. You now have a easier way to obtain triples.
Anything, yeah. Right? This changes the math on tripling, and because let's say you're on Tavern 5 and you have, let's say, a Bran, you also have a Deflecto, you've got like a Hydra, you have all of these things. When a Hydra, like, let's say if a Hydra popped up, what are you thinking? Like, well, I would love to triple it. I would love to triple into an Amalgadon as well, but I can't pick up this Hydra because the chances of me tripling it versus the gold that I could be using right now, just not worth it, right? You see a Deflecto, you think the same thing. You see a Bran, you think the same thing, even though you're like, oh, it's so juicy, but no, I can't take it. Faceless Tavern Goer, as long as you're in a decent spot, it's you staring at the second copy of Deflecto, the second copy of the Hydra, the second copy of the Bran, the second copy of whatever else you have on your board. So then is it worth it? Yeah, it's really worth it, because you're just picking up the second copy of everything on your board that's not already golden. So that risk assessment, that potential to profit and win the game is so much higher. it's become like a auto pickup for me as long as I'm healthy. Now, do I
Mhm.
like it for the game? I don't. I don't want tripling to be that much easier because I think tripling is a cool mechanic and it's fun for BGs, but I don't want tripling to become easier. So this is one of those cards where I'm fine with it right now. I don't think it's like ruining the game or anything. I would not be unhappy if they took it out, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, and I hope Blizzard doesn't keep going down this route of just making tripling super duper easy.
Zephyrs. Um, so the other minion that's being added is a Menagerie minion, tier 5. The tier of Menagerie. It's a 4 attack, 4 health minion, but at the end of your turn, gain +1/+2 for each minion type you control. So this one's going to scale up pretty fast in a Menagerie comp, but it is just a dumb neutral unit. What do you think about this one, Merps?
It's a dumb neutral unit, but man, it's good. It scales, and it's just one of those units that you put it down and you forget about it. And Gold Grubber is a little bit tougher because you have to like Gold Grubber is tougher because you have to get more gold minions, right? The taunt scaling thing that you need taunt minions. Mithrax just works with Menagerie because all it does is like, hey, are you going to play Menagerie? And if so, I'm going to super reward you for doing it. And the good thing about Mithrax is also the fact that when you're playing Menagerie and you have Bran, the cups and the jugs can only buff 3 tribes at a time, anyways. So this not being a tribe doesn't even exactly hurt it because if you have a Light Fang, okay, well, this thing is gaining a lot of stats anyways. And if you have a Bran, well, you don't even care if you're just missing another thing on the board to buff because you're not going to be able to buff like everything with Bran anyway. So it's something that you just put down and you just forget about, and it really works. If you have, for example, Light Fang or Bran, you can have 4 tribes plus Mithrax plus your Light Fang or Bran, and then plus a buff spot. And that's great. That's perfect. And if you have Light Fang and Bran, then you cut one of those tribes, and that's fine. And then you can have Mithrax as there, and then you can have a buff spot as well. I've had it in quite a few of my comps. It's been really good. It's won me a decent amount of games, and never discount its ability to be more than just pure stats. Because remember, you can get divine shields and stuff that couldn't really get divine shields because of the prizes. And this thing grows so fast. Really nice. Just like Menagerie didn't need stuff to become more powerful, but they got this unit, and this unit is quite good.
Yep. All right. Any last words about Battlegrounds? So this is all the changes that happen in Battlegrounds. It is a lot, as you can probably tell. It's kind of a new game now, and like the hero pool swapped a lot. You have a new backbone of neutral units. They clean out a lot of the old ones that weren't doing much. Plus Xeris, and they added spells, which fundamentally changed the game. So any kind of like last words on tips of how to do well with the meta? Like,
Yeah, I'll give you guys a few general tips, and this is something that I've been seeing streamers do, like successful streamers do as well. But I truly believe that this meta is the meta where you level to 5 and then you also level to 6 a decent amount. And the people that play scared and hold back, that's going to hurt you quite a lot. So during my climb, I'm a lot of times just the very, very first person to go to tier 6. You obviously should do that if you're Unleashed. Like, if you're not the first person to go to tier 6 as Unleashed, then you're playing wrong. Like, you're actually just throwing the game. But with other heroes as well, like even Omu, um, just like different heroes, I'm going to tier 6. Sometimes I'm going to tier 6 with Rafam as well. And you want to go there early. You want to make sure that you get there early so that you can pick up those units and you have a manageable amount of damage coming to you, instead of playing scared, getting locked on tier 4, and then going to tier 5 a little bit late after people have already taken a lot of the good tier 5 units, and then just not having the scaling. So this is strange for me to just be like, oh yeah, just level, because I know a lot of people are going to make mistakes early on, and then they're going to try this and they're going to come back and be like, Merps, you're totally wrong. What are you talking about? I leveled up to tier 6 and I die, and I always die. And my response is probably doing it wrong. You're probably not playing it in the way that you need to make sure that this works. So it's like me with my aggro hunter saying like, just kill them by 6 mana. And they're like, wait, how? I never got there. It's like I can never get there. It's like, you're probably doing something wrong before then. But if you are the type of player like Adulta is, who likes to stay low, let's get them stats. +2/+2 is +2/+2. That's a hard day's worth of work. That's something that we should commend. No, okay. Level, be the first person to be on tier 5, tier 6 a lot of the times. You got to balance out a lot of factors. But I have found a ton of success in going to tier 5 fast and then going to tier 6 fast. And we've had metas where you like never go to tier 6, right? Because tier 6 units are not good and everything. There are lots of good tier 5 units right now that give you direction for sure, right? And because Menagerie is really good. But I also don't mind just going to tier 6 so that I can find all of these things faster and I can immediately pick up the Amalgadons and Enlistras without having to triple into them. And that's just been really, really successful with me. It's also just partly because like Elise is by far the strongest hero, and she can do that quite often. So do that with Elise, do that with Omu, and be greedy in the early and mid game. Take that damage. A lot of my wins come with me being in like the bottom 2 in the mid game, but I survive, and then I get number 1. So take the damage when you can, instead of saying, oh, I don't want to take any damage here. And then next turn, you're like, oh, but this guy's so strong now, and I don't want to level. That happens a lot. So don't be scared. Just take that damage so that you can eventually win the lobby.
All right. So that is Battlegrounds. I spent a lot of time on Battlegrounds because there was a lot to cover. But there's also...
This is the biggest patch. Yeah, this is like huge patch.
Ridiculously huge patch, but there has been also changes to like actual cards. We probably should have covered this when we were covering Arena, but they don't really impact the Arena that much. I feel like we should go over them though. Blade Dance is 1 mana more now. Shatter Shard Mystic is 1 mana more now. These are not cards that had the hugest effect in the Arena. The one that did have a big effect in the Arena that changed is Dreadlord's Bite. It used to be a 3/2 weapon that outcast dealt 1 damage to all enemies, and it was like, why? Why does this card exist? And now it's a 3 mana 2/2 weapon that outcast deals 1 damage to all enemies. So it went from being like a super busted card to being like a card you would not want to have over like just a normal curve card. Like, it's a huge nerf. So if you haven't caught on to the absolute ridiculous nerf that went to this card, yes, this card is like basically dead. It's not unplayable, but it's like Razorfen Hunter levels. I don't know, let me see what our tier list put it as. I imagine it's quite low. Dreadlord's Bite. Yeah, it's a 67. It's actually 3 points. Sorry, it's 5 points below a Razorfen Hunter. That's... Don't take this card. Okay, so Dino Tamer Bran, it was a 7, now 8. Legendary, doesn't really matter that much. Lore Keeper Pocket was a 4 mana card, now a 5 mana card. This is going to be kind of significant because as a 4 mana card, it was a Yeti. And as we said before it came out, and as we've been saying ever since, this is one of the best cards in the game at 4 mana because it can be played on curve and you're fine. You will not miss your curve, like your turns afterwards. You won't have a lot of options, but you'll still have like stuff to play. And then you kind of just win the entire value game. Well, now at 5 mana, the story's kind of changed because it's now no longer a curve unit. It's still doing its job, but it's now no longer like super busted. You'll find Pocket at 133 on the tier list, which is like, I don't know, it's a 133 card. Like a Circus Medic, Defender of Argus, Crimson Hothead, Disguised Wanderer. Like that level of like, you're happy to have it in your deck, sure. But it's not like the best card in the game, which Pocket used to be. I forget what Pocket was. I think Pocket was over 200 easily. So that's gonna have some effect on your drafting on the legendary side. And then finally, Voracious Reader was a 2 mana card, is now a 3 mana card. We always like this card because you can drop it later on after you empty your hand and then get a lot of value out of it if you control the board. And it's like, because you're not actually playing it on turn 2, the fact that it's 3 mana now instead of 2 mana is not the biggest deal. It's still a 104. Like, it's still better than a Yeti, we think. Just because, like, raising something by 1 mana is really not the same, right? If you raise a curve card by 1 mana, it kills the card. If you raise a card that you would not play until you have 10 mana anyway, at least, then it's not that big of a deal. And this is one of those cards. So changing it from 2 mana to 3 mana really didn't do much to hurt its value. And it's still, the value still went down by like a significant amount, but it's not. It was not. Didn't like drop by 100 points like Pocket did. So yeah, so that's the constructed / arena update part of it. And do you want to wrap it up here, or do you actually want to talk about duels?
I think we should wrap it up.
Okay, let's wrap it up. We have a good question from the GOAT from our Reddit, from our subreddit, but it's about duels and it's pretty involved in terms of the answer. So we'll do that next week.
Next week.
All right. No question from the GOAT tonight. That's it for this. It's been a long podcast. We have the Arena Coop to get to. By the way, if you're listening to this and you've stopped watching the Arena Coop because we canceled it, it's been back. It's been back since the expansion came out, and we have not been getting sniped as hard as before. So hopefully that continues. Like, getting sniped once per run is pretty bad. Getting sniped twice per run, we can't handle that. Like, at least not the obvious snipers. Okay. That's it from us. We'll see you one more time this year before it's officially 2021. And until then, this is Opticto.
This is Merps. See you guys.